Alright, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. In this video I'm going to be replacing a light switch that's been flickering on and off. Like every time you go to turn the light switch on, it goes into like a strobe light party mode, which is no fun. I don't have epilepsy or anything, but it's almost enough to give a guy an epileptic seizure. I'll put in a clip of what the light switch was doing. That it's worse than that usually, but that should give you the idea of what's going on. The other day I went to replace this switch and came to find out that it is or the switch in there was different than most light switches I've seen or have encountered, and so that being said, I just put it on hold until I was confident that I knew what I was doing and had the right materials and stuff like that to continue the project. But so yeah, so there'll be like two clips that aren't from today, but if you're wondering why, that's why. But I want to make it absolutely abundantly clear that I am not an electrician. I'm probably about as far from an electrician as you could possibly get. And I also want to say that if you aren't comfortable doing stuff with electricity, don't do it. Just, it's not worth it, because you could hurt yourself, you could hurt others potentially if you do something wrong and it leads to problems or blah blah blah, and the list goes on. But so yeah, that's something, absolutely don't do it if you don't feel comfortable. It could also burn your house down, and yeah, you don't want that to happen. I could burn my house down for all I know. But all right, once I get to putting this switch in, I'll pick the camera back up. But this was the switch that was in there, and it's like a mobile home style switch, I believe. I'll try and get a little bit better video of this, and I will show how I opened this little plastic bit here just in just a second. And yeah, because this was partially a part of the reason that I was confused when I first started this project, is because I had never seen one of these style switches, and I don't, in my opinion, it doesn't seem like the best design, because it's just, I mean, yeah, you'll see here in a second, but let me get that thing open and show you how. It just says to open device, depress latch buttons through square holes in sides of body, which are these holes here. Oh, well, I think I just broke it there, but I did get it the first time when I started this. Well, actually, I don't think I did break it without breaking it. Yeah, but yeah, here's that switch, and that's how you take it off. I'll try and explain to the best of my knowledge, which isn't very much, how this was wired in there once I'm putting the new switch and cutout box in. Yeah, I've also got, along with the switch, I've got a couple different cutout boxes I know from different projects that I've done and stuff like that. I've got one that's deeper and some that are shallow, kind of like that. Being that our house was like a pre-manufactured home, all of like the receptacles and light switches, mostly just the upstairs portion of the house, the receptacles and the light switches were pre-wired. Not fully, obviously, but they were ran so that all you had to do was hook it up to the panel. And I'll put a clip in of this house getting set if I can find it in my parents' giant bin of VHS tapes, and I'll try and give you an idea of what I mean by pre-manufactured home. Okay, I think this is the right tape, but we will find out. Okay, now let's go back 22 years. and see what, or now you'll get an idea for what I meant by pre-manufactured home. That's my aunt and that's my uncle. My mom is the one taking this video. I think that's my grandpa right there.
Oh, will you take a picture of me?
I'm standing right about here, right now, taking this video. This is my dad. Here you can kind of see back in there. That's right where I'm standing right now. Yeah, pretty cool that my mom took videos of this stuff. I definitely got to get it moved off of the tapes that they're on and onto like a SD card or something. All right, well, yeah, enough jibber jabbering. If you haven't fallen asleep or clicked off by now, yeah, we'll get to, or I'll pick the camera back up once I have once I got the wires coming out of the wall and we're putting the new switch in. And the first thing, no matter what, that I, at least in my knowledge, is always turn the breaker off first before you do anything. And I'll show you quickly how I do that, just to, yeah, and then I'll get back to doing the task at hand. There's plenty of ways to do it, but my clamp meter has a non-contact voltage setting that will start beeping at you when you get it next to anything with high enough voltage to make it go off, which is, I believe, just anything with 120 volts. It might even go off less than that. I'm not certain, but I'll just show you really quick. And then I'll go shut the breaker off. So on my meter, at least, you go to the NCV setting, which stands for non-contact voltage. And then, oh, there's a little better. And then once you put this part right here, part that says NCV next to voltage, it'll start beeping at you. So there you can see, pretty sensitive. You get the point. So, all right, well, I'm gonna go shut the power off to the power off to that light switch and get a headlamp set up, and then, yeah, continue on. And the way I do it is you check something before with your meter, make sure your meter is working properly, confirm that, shut the breaker off, check it again, make sure that it's off, and then start. I'm saying this to myself because, like I said, I am not an electrician. If anything, I am, well, I'm retarded. All right, they cut the breaker for me. Gonna be just west of California, somewhere under Pacific Ocean. I'm working on is going to be right here. So turn the headlamp on. It's like those. I've never seen one of these old switch styles like that. You can tell this is the first one, or the only one's ever been in there. Okay, I think I decided I'm going to use this box just because it's got more room here for me to shove all those wires in once I get it all hooked back up. But I'm just going to throw it on time lapse while I do that. I'm going to grab a little drywall saw, make this hole big enough to fit that, and then go from there. I successfully got that new box, well, new old work box installed. I just have to tighten it down. These screws here, there's little plastic. I was gonna use these clips here, which I've used on other things, but this box that I bought has little plastic flipper things. I should have shown it before, but once you get it in there, I believe as soon as I start to tighten these screws here on each corner, it'll pull that little plastic ear tab thing tight, and I won't have to worry about there not being a stud here or trying to get like a nail into the stud that is here or on either side of it. I'm gonna try not to go too gorilla style on those screws because it's drywall and drywall's crumbly. So, but, I mean, that's in there plenty good for a light switch, I'd have to say. I mean, we don't have very many earthquakes up here in Minnesota, so. But okay, well, all right. Well, now that that's installed, I can I'll explain. This isn't how to wire it. This is how I'm gonna wire it, or how I figured out or came to the conclusion that I need to wire it. Anyways, and if anyone watching this that's an electrician or anyone that has just more knowledge than me sees anything I'm doing wrong, feel free to let me know, and I'll do my best to correct it and in the future. But so originally when I took that mobile home style switch out, it was because the two sets of wires here are just controlling those lights there, and then that bathroom light and the fan. So coming into this thing, it's just that you're coming into this switch, it was just there's gonna be a hot to a hot, and then a neutral to a neutral, and then your grounds were just in the middle of this thing, and they just get shoved in there pretty much. So in order to use the single pole switch grounding paddle switch that I'm using, what I'm doing is I made a pigtail with the same gauge wire as that, both the wire that's existing in the wall for the ground, and it's one of those 3-way Wago lever nuts. And then for the neutrals, I'm just using one of these 2-way Wago lever nuts. And then after that, it'll just get hooked up like a normal or typical light switch. At least, yeah, that's how I'm doing it, and it should be working fine. So yeah, I'm gonna do that now. And then the only other thing that I want to add is, as far as I'm aware and to my knowledge, you want to curl your wires clockwise, or whatever direction you're going to be tightening the screw, because you want the screw or the wire to get tightened as you turn the screw. If you do it the wrong way, it'll loosen it, which is no good. And then yeah, but other than that, like I said, not an electrician, so I'm just gonna go back to getting this thing put in, and hopefully it doesn't look terrible and still works good, and we'll go from there. All right, now that I got the grounds pigtailed or lever nutted and kind of somewhat nicely, well, bent and not crossed terribly, and then same with the neutrals, they're together, essentially pigtailed but lever nutted, and then I went ahead and taped them as well, just because it makes me feel better. I don't think the only time that I would really see those things opening is when you angry gorilla push it back into the wall, and possibly maybe would rub against something and flip one of those levers open. But if they're taped, I don't know how that could happen, and it doesn't hurt to give it a little tug test too. But yeah, all right, get the switch hooked up and get this thing pushed back into the wall. Be done with it.
Back of the day. You have to wait until 5:30 to drive.
Okay, well, being that I'm not an electrician, that was quite a struggle, but I got those two sit down in there correctly, I believe. They're rotated, or they're looped counterclockwise, and I stripped them to where it was recommended. Ground screw is also hooked up counterclockwise.
Retarded?
The Wago with the ground wires is taped. The neutral with the Wago with the neutrals is also taped. Now I'm just going to do my best to neatly push it all back in the wall and put it back, screw it down into that switch box and put the new cover on and finally be done. Hopefully that goes smooth. Okay, well, that was a battle to get it all stuffed in there. Enough to satisfy me, but it's in there, nice and good. That box is installed, not going anywhere. Switch isn't going anywhere. Just centered and lined up as I could possibly get it here and here. Now I just gotta, I'm gonna turn the breaker back on, confirm that it's working, and then I'll cut the breaker one more time and I'll put this switch plate back on. And we'll be done. As Big Clive might say, one moment please. Alright, I turned the breaker back on. The switch is still in the off position, so we'll turn the headlamp off and hit the switch to see if it comes on. Alright, good thing. Nothing on fire. Those are working. Those are working. Fan is working. Okay, so now just gonna get that switch plate put back on and we'll be done. All right, well, it's been a day or two at least since I got that put back in. My SD card got full on my GoPro, but I also replaced this cover on the top here. I may end up replacing this switch too because it's ugly and old, and more than likely I'd imagine it's the same style as the one that was down there, so it might fail like that one did at some point eventually anyways. But anyways, what I wanted to say was I got it back on there so that it's, oops, so this is flush everywhere, at least to the best of my capability anyways. And then yeah, centered as far as I could get it and still working. And yeah, my house isn't on fire yet, so that's good. The only other thing I might do is, being that that switch I pulled out originally was like spray foamed into the wall, I might put like a little bit of silicone, just a tiny bit here, all the way around, just to keep for some peace of mind. And then yeah, other than that, one other thing I wanted to say is, if someone watching this was wondering why there's no red wire, because I think it's common to see red wires with lighting now. I think that's just due to the fact that these were installed before it was common to see Romex that had that red wire as well, which is typically used in lighting circuits to my knowledge. But like I said, not an electrician at all. But all right, well, it didn't take me too terribly long to get that fixed. Compared to a real electrician, they probably could have wired or roughed into two new houses and like a small apartment complex. But other than that, I mean, it didn't seem like too overly difficult of the challenge. But yeah, like I said, one thing, if there's anything you can take away from this video, is that it's not supposed to be a tutorial, because I do not know if I did everything correctly. I'm just someone that likes to try and fix something if I can on my own. And I like to learn and a lot of times learn from my own mistakes. But yeah, here's that's the switch that I use. It was, I'm pretty sure it was like $5 or less. I think I got it at Walmart. Pretty sure, I can't remember for sure. I think that's GE, General Electric. Yeah, you just kind of want to make sure whatever you have is UL listed or some sort of listed from whatever device you install is like tested at some sort of a laboratory somewhere. The only really place you'll probably encounter something that's not laboratory tested is maybe if you're ordering it from like Amazon or like AliExpress or Temu or one of those places or something like that. But yeah, all right, enough jibber jabbing. Gonna call that done, and yeah, I won't update this unless my house burns down. So thanks for watching if you watched it. Hey. Sit. Good boy. Ziggy, turn all the lights off.